The art of Assassin's Creed 7 4 Black Flag mostly has finalized concept art, which is mostly of the environments, and some rough concept sketches. There's also a lot of captions from the artists. Overall, it's an average video game art book. This review will cover the quality of the physical book itself, the content of the book, the aesthetics, and the nostalgia evoked by the book. I'll also look at whether it provides any insight into the game's development. Let's start with the quality of the physical book. It's 9 inches by 12 inches, has about 192 pages. It's hardcover and comes with a dust jacket that is, as usual, worse than the original cover. The printing quality is about average, so overall the quality of the physical book is pretty normal. So what's inside the book? What types of images are there? There's rough sketches, some concept sketches like this one, which sets the feel for a stealth section, some final art designs, some mood pieces. There's a few other cool things like this diagram of a ship. Though there is some variety, most of the art is the final version of the concept art. They specifically mention that they went through many iterations of some of the sketches, but we rarely see any of that in here. Alright, how's all this organized? Well, apart from the chapter on people, virtually the whole book is on locations, and they're divided into chapters. We've got Abstergo, people, cities, exploration, pirate life, sea battles, and underwater world. I suppose the organization makes some sense, but looking through the book, it's basically just a huge series of environment art for an open world game. Is there any writing or insight from the artists and developers themselves? Yeah, a lot of the captions are from the artists and they describe why they made the design decisions that they did. I think that's awesome. It seems like most of the instructions given to the artists were to set the mood, give general ideas, and that's a lot of what this art is. To illustrate what I mean, some art book commentary will be like this. Troy has a rough past and has learned not to trust authority, but now he's working for the government and wears a uniform. But we have his shirt a bit untucked to reflect the fact that he's not entirely on board with what he's doing. Whereas this book is more like, we wanted this scene to be epic, or high cliffs are a key element of the art direction of this game. So the commentary's fine, but you don't get as much mileage out of it as some other art book commentary. As for the quality of the writing, a lot of it is quotes from the artist with some stuff from the author. Some of the writing by the author is a bit over the top, but nothing else is particularly noteworthy. Does this book have what you want it to have? Well, when you think about an Assassin's Creed 4 art book, what would you want to see? I would mostly want to see pirate ship stuff and tropical environments. And that is mostly what's in this book. I do wish there was a bit more stuff on the ships and naval battles, though, and probably less about the towns. I mean, none of the towns in the game really stood out in my mind. Another thing I liked is that there was so much commentary from the artists, and that they explained what they were thinking. One thing I wasn't a big fan of is that most of the art is finalized sketches, which isn't my ideal. It would be nice to see more iterative artwork. Also, the art is mostly of the sort that gives an overall feel for the setting rather than showing things specifically in the game. However, I would guess though that that's mostly due to the production process of the developer. On the whole, I think the content in this book is on par with other video game art books. Alright, the aesthetics. Does the book have a pleasant layout? Well, in general, yeah, except for some caption issues. Are there any full pages of art? Yeah, I think a lot of them are quite nice. As for the quality of the art, well, if you really like looking at beaches, oceanside towns, I suspect you'll enjoy the overall visual aesthetic of this book. Are there any weird aesthetic issues with the book, like having an annoying layout? Well, some of the captions are labeled pretty weird. Like on this page. I mean, which caption is for which image? Why the confusion? Some of the art doesn't have captions at all, and that just adds to the confusion. And unfortunately, this type of thing is very frequent in this book. And I will say that some of the captions are just in dumb places. I mean, look here. Left, and bottom right. Okay, guess no caption for these two. But look on the next page. Previous spread. The caption's for this one. I mean, why didn't they just put the caption above it right here? Come on. I mean, issues like this made reading through the book really annoying. Just hunting for captions half the time. Okay, and one other thing, and this is relatively minor, but here the artist says, "This became my most satisfying concept for the project." So I think it'd be highlighted, but it's this tiny picture placed right in the crevice of the book. That's too bad. Poor artist. I mean, this book should be highlighting the art. Well, even though the overall look of the book seems pretty pleasant, I think the aesthetics are actually below average because actually looking through the book is such an annoying experience. Alright, does the game evoke nostalgia? This is one of the weaker areas of the book, in part because it's one of the weaker areas of the game. Perhaps this is just my personal bias showing, but I think it's a valid critique. Since they crank out, especially back then, Assassin's Creed games at such a fast pace, with several hundred people on the development teams, the game is less, let's design the perfect stealth section, and more, we need a stealth section. Here, here, and here. And as a result, the game doesn't really have any standout moments, but it does have a consistent feel. So I felt some nostalgia for the game's setting, but that's about it. Now, on to the part of the review where I'll show some examples of how the book offers insight into the development process. There was a story that I thought was pretty interesting where they discuss how realism isn't always as important as pleasant visuals. For example, they write that in real life, a sugarcane field would be low to soak up water, but that kind of cut into the look of the organized town that the artist wanted. So they moved the sugarcane fields high up above everything else, which doesn't make any sense in real life, but it does for this game. Another thing I noticed is that a lot of the environment art is less specific than other games. I think they wanted the general mood, and then the programmers have a system of basically populating things. Here it says that the artists give the overall look, and that the 3D team then adjusts the scene. I thought it was interesting to see how that contrasts with other games where things are a lot more clearly defined by the artists. It just makes me think about how the Assassin's Creed games have several hundred people working on them, and in factory fashion, they may not have time to get everything exactly the way they want it, just the general feel. For example, I don't recall the fishing village being exactly like that, but the overall feel is shacks on stilts with platforms in between. A bit more on this same point. Here, the art director says that he wanted to use stylized landmarks, like trees, to help the player navigate more open jungles. But it seems like this goal got lost in the development process somewhere and it didn't really come to fruition. So, to me, it seems like the artists, the people making the game, they have really good design sense, but in the juggernaut of the Assassin's Creed series, it just doesn't always get translated into the final game. As a side note, an entry at the start of the book seems to equate Abstergo with Ubisoft. I think that's about right. Well, different people want different things in video game art books, but I hope this review has been helpful in showing you what you can expect from this book. If you have any complaints about this video, please feel free to contact my customer support center.